1. Oleander. Oleander is planted along highways and gardens across the world for one reason. It's nearly indestructible. But almost nothing else about it is safe. Every part of this plant is toxic. The leaves, the stem, the sap, even the smoke if you burn it. In parts of the ancient Mediterranean, soldiers were warned never to use its branches as skewers over a campfire. People died doing exactly that. It's so resilient that it's often the only flower blooming after a wildfire. Beautiful, everywhere, and quietly one of the most dangerous plants you'll ever walk past. But oleander isn't subtle about being dangerous. This next one is. 2. Lily of the Valley. Lily of the Valley has been a symbol of purity for centuries. Queens have carried it down the aisle. Kate Middleton included it in her royal wedding bouquet in 2011. Every part of that romantic little flower is toxic enough to stop a heart. Its tiny red berries look almost edible, and children have been poisoned mistaking them for candy. The irony is brutal. One of the most trusted symbols of new beginnings is quietly one of the most lethal flowers in Europe. Some flowers, though, don't hide their poison. They turned it into medicine. 3. Foxglove. Foxglove produces a compound called digitalis, and in the right dose it's one of the most important heart medications ever discovered. In the wrong dose, it stops the heart completely. For centuries, folk healers used foxglove to treat dropsy. What we now know was heart failure, without fully understanding why it worked or how easily it could kill the patient instead of saving them. It's the same story again and again with deadly flowers. The line between cure and poison is razor thin. Nowhere is that line thinner than with the next flower, because doctors used it for thousands of years, knowing it had no antidote. 4. Autumn crocus. Autumn crocus contains colchicine, a compound so effective against gout that ancient Egyptian physicians were already prescribing it over 3,500 years ago. There's just one problem. There is still no antidote for colchicine poisoning today. Not in ancient Egypt, not now. A small miscalculation in dosage, and the same flower that treats inflammation shuts down the body from the inside out. It's one of the oldest medicines on earth, and one of the most unforgiving. Some flowers didn't just poison by accident, they were chosen for exactly that purpose. 5. Belladonna. Belladonna means beautiful lady in Italian, because Renaissance women used drops of its juice to dilate their pupils, believing it made them more attractive. It also made them go blind if they used too much. This is the same plant historians believe was used in political assassinations across ancient Rome, and later became infamous as a key ingredient in the flying ointments witches were accused of using in medieval trials. Beauty, poison, and legend, all growing on the same stem. But if Belladonna earned a reputation, the next flower earned a crown. 6. Monkshood. Monkshood has been called the Queen of Poisons for over 2,000 years. Ancient hunters coated arrow and spear tips with it to bring down wolves and large game, which is exactly why its other name is wolfsbane. Medieval folklore went even further, claiming it could ward off werewolves, since it was already known as the plant that could kill almost anything with fur. Just touching the sap with bare skin has been enough to cause serious poisoning. This flower doesn't wait for you to eat it. If monkshood was a hunter's weapon, the next flower became a criminal's. 7. Angel's trumpet. Angel's trumpet produces enormous fragrant blooms that hang like glowing bells, and a compound called scopolamine that's been nicknamed the zombie drug. In parts of South America, criminals have allegedly used scopolamine derived from this plant to erase a victim's free will for hours without them realizing anything was wrong. Indigenous cultures across the Americas also used it in ritual ceremonies for centuries, walking a careful line between spiritual vision and lethal overdose. It doesn't just poison the body, It can hijack the mind first. And one flower took that mind-altering reputation even further. 8. Datura. Datura is sometimes called Devil's Trumpet, and it's earned every part of that name. In Haitian folklore, it's one of the plants linked to the legend of zombification, powders that could put a person into a death-like trance before supposedly reviving them as a mindless servant. Medieval European witches were said to include it in the same flying ointments as Belladonna, producing violent hallucinations that some historians believe explain the vivid, terrifying visions described in witch trial confessions. It doesn't just kill. It spent centuries blurring the line between poison and possession. But one flower on this list didn't need legend or folklore. It just needed to kill one of the most famous philosophers in history. 9. Poison hemlock. Poison hemlock is the plant that killed Socrates. In 399 BCE, the Greek philosopher was sentenced to death for corrupting the youth of Athens, and executed by drinking a cup of hemlock extract, calmly discussing philosophy as the paralysis crept from his feet to his heart. It remains one of the most documented executions in human history, and it happened because of a wildflower that still grows along roadsides and riverbanks today. Socrates didn't die from a blade or poison hidden in wine. He died from a flower most people would walk past without a second glance. But even Socrates' killer isn't the most efficient one on this list. 10. Rosary Pea. Rosary Pea produces small, glossy, red and black seeds so strikingly beautiful they've been strung into jewelry and rosaries for centuries across Asia and the Caribbean. Inside each seed is abrin, one of the most toxic substances known to science. A single seed, if properly chewed and swallowed, contains enough abrin to kill an adult. Jewelry makers have died from nothing more than a pinprick while stringing the beads, the toxin entering through a tiny break in the skin. Out of every flower on this list, the roadside shrub, the royal bouquet, the philosopher's execution, it's this small, decorative seed that holds the most concentrated killer of them all.